Morgan. Thank you so much for inviting me here to speak with you today. I'm so excited to be in your beautiful city, talking about two of my favorite subjects: science and house. I'm afraid that's where the pleasantries end. I'm going to start by ripping off the Band-Aid, so to speak. Here's the truth. For most people in the general public, science is a dirty word. I can say science at a cocktail party and clear a room like that. And listing it as an interest on an online dating profile will definitely not get you any dates. I learned that lesson the hard way. People don't want to hear it, and they certainly don't want to talk about it. They have trained themselves to equate science with words like impossible and boring. They avoid it because even at a time that some are calling the golden age of geeks, science still means something like this. People think science only belongs to a rarefied few. Geniuses out of touch with reality, their heads full of complicated equations and dry theories. But most of all, people are afraid of science because they are afraid of feeling stupid. As someone who dropped out of pre-medicine, I know that feeling personally. It is a very sharp and hard sting to forget. In my opinion, this is the biggest challenge we face, changing the way people react to the idea of science. It doesn't belong to a special few. It belongs to all of us. There is no one more in touch with reality or in control of its future than those who embrace science. The average American, and forgive me, my bias is American, spends only 5% of their lifetime in a classroom. By contrast, they spend between 25 and 30% of their life in front of a television. Looking at those numbers, it is clear we in the television business not only have an enormous opportunity, but an obligation to help people, to change people's minds about science. All right? But how? Based on the success of House MD, or Dr. House as you know it, as one of the most watched television shows in the world, I believe we have an excellent example of how we can entertain an audience with fundamental concepts of science without having them dive for their remote control. Let us never forget, the audience always has the power to change the channel. House MD strives to make medicine attainable to the initiated and the uninitiated equally. We want people to get acquainted with science in a way where they learn to stop being afraid of it and stop thinking of it as a dirty word. In my opinion, House succeeds through the use of three key elements: the use of the human body as an engine for mystery, the lead character of Gregory House, and finally, through our commitment to always entertain the audience with compelling story, character, and a lot of humor. First of all, House is a mystery procedural. Procedurals are the most successful TV drama format. Law procedurals, police procedurals, and yes, medical procedurals dominate every television schedule. The human mind has a fundamental desire to solve mysteries. It seeks and finds satisfaction in finding patterns and chaos. Plus, who doesn't love outwitting characters by guessing who done it first? Though if you're a good mystery writer, you keep your audience guessing until the very end. House is a mystery procedural told through the prism of the human body. Why the human body? Well, first, it's something we all share. No matter what your cultural or economic background, we all can relate to the terror of something going wrong with our bodies or the bodies of someone we love that we can't control. And the stakes are not only relatable, they are absolutely clear: life or death, with some wonderful gray areas along the way. The show's creator, David Shore, constantly reminds his writers to get the audience to ask the question, what would I do if I were in that situation? Unlike other procedurals, the stories of the medical procedural will never run dry. I am constantly struck by the sheer number and variety of ways the human body can go wrong. Genetic diseases, autoimmune diseases, viruses, bacteria, parasites, cancers, environmental threats. Crime rates may drop, laws may change, but people will always get sick. Because for every cure, a cancer can mutate, a microorganism can adapt, and an industry can create a new toxin in the name of progress. As if all those pros about the show about medicine were not enough, medicine also provides us with wonderful ancillary areas for story, such as patient rights, medical ethics, and the personal toll of life as a doctor. What sets the show apart from other medical procedurals is its focus on the medicine itself. The mystery is what matters, not the love lives of the doctors or the politics within the hospital. That's why the engine for each story is the mechanism of differential diagnosis. A patient arrives with a set of symptoms, and where other doctors have failed, Dr. House and his team apply a system of observation, deductive reasoning, hypothesis, and experimentation to find a diagnosis. Differential diagnosis is a process of reasoning and elimination. It is the deliberate demonstration of the scientific method at work. And this is one of my favorite aspects of the show, unlike the infallible characters of other mystery procedurals, our characters are not afraid to be wrong. Being wrong is an essential part of the scientific process. You have to test a theory to know if it's right. And if it isn't right, you go back to the whiteboard. Each failure is not seen as the end of a doctor's career, but rather an opportunity to gain more information and get closer to the true diagnosis. People like to joke that our doctors are terrible doctors because they spend the majority of our show being wrong. But what we hope they come to appreciate is that being wrong is part of the process. You have to risk the wrong answer in order to get to the right one. But beyond all of that, the best and most wonderful reason to put medicine as the focus of the show is the human body itself. It is one of the most complex, beautiful, and mysterious organisms known to us. Not to mention, without it, we couldn't do cool stuff like this clip, which is based on a real-life OR experience described to us by one of our medical advisors, Dr. Lisa Sanders.
Blood in the field. Not where I'm looking.
How am I supposed to know where you're looking?
Here's a hint. It's the bloody part.
The whole thing's bloody. It's a guy with a hole in his body.
It's like you've never done this before. Use the suction.
I will. And in fact, I've never done this before because I went to med school, not nurse school.
Hey, want to see if your clients actually made money?
Cutting out the last piece of bowel. Suture.
The coast is pink. Flattened villi.
Intestinal atrophy. It's Whipple's disease.
Explains the seizure and the stomach pain.
Little bleeder here. Cautery.
Hey, wait! The gas! That always happens during surgery. It's the gas buildup in the blockage. Nothing to sue about. Treat him for the burns, put him on antibiotics for the whipples. He'll be fine.
Certainly our best and most important mechanism for incorporating the tenets of science in the show is the character of Dr. Gregory House. David Shore created a singular character for TV, insulting, cantankerous, and very, very smart. He is the epitome of a scientific mind. He's concerned only with the quantifiable. That is to say, he lives in the truth of things, a perspective that often has him saying things to people that others would never dare say aloud. Sure, sometimes it's for his own amusement, but absolutely it is a defining part of his character as a scientist. That dedication to truth is what drives House as a scientist and doctor. His first and only goal is to find a diagnosis and solve the mystery. This next clip shows us just how far he's willing to go in pursuit of that goal, farther than any character on TV or in real life would. House is determined to get a biopsy of a young boy's heart in order to run tests and solve a disease that has eluded him in the past. He risks the boy's life to get the biopsy. and the one small piece of tissue that it yields limits the team to only 3 diagnostic tests. After 2 tests fail to provide an answer, House uses his experience, observation, and reasoning to gamble the last piece, and the boy's life, on a theory no one else agrees with.
Passing through the superior vena cava.
You're in the atrium. Pull back. You've hit the wall of the heart.
These procedures would be so much simpler if you did them on healthy people. And out again.
MINTiFF. Cardiac arrest.
Oh, come on, paddles. Come on.
Claire?
Code blue, ISO room. Code blue, ISO room.
Again.
Nothing.
Again. You got a clock on this.
How much longer are you going to keep doing this?
Clear.
Wait. I've got something.
He's back.
What have you done?
What we came here to do.
It almost killed him.
I know. It was right here. Give me a Vacutainer.
His brain's been oxygen deprived for over 8 minutes. There might be nothing left. He might
Tell the parents. Where the hell is that Vacutainer?
Sure about this?
Wait, let me think about that. Don't pressure me. Just run the damn test.
Cells look like macrophages.
That's a good start. Take your time and say it loud.
CD68 positive.
People return to our show again and again to watch House's antics and hear his clever lines of dialogue. But what they might not be aware of is that they are, in fact, learning science. The show teaches because House himself is a teacher. He is responsible for teaching the important fundamentals and subtleties of scientific reasoning to a team of doctors made up of fellows, medical students, and residents who lack his experience and dedication to the truth. House often employs the Socratic method to inspire his team to arrive at their own theories, but when that fails, there's always yelling. House's first lesson to all the members of his team is the maxim, everybody lies. There are any number of reasons why someone lies: embarrassment, to protect a loved one, or simply a sin of omission. What House demands from his doctors is to be responsible for what happens to the patient in the course of a case. It is not up to the patient to cure himself. The doctors must use their own knowledge, skills, and observation to determine what's important medically. In this next clip, Dr. Chase, a member of House's team, is distracted by an upsetting personal drama, and as a result, he fails to follow up on what is called a doorknob moment, when a patient waits until the very end of a session to reveal a key, oftentimes embarrassing symptom. Dr. Chase's personal emotions and failure to conduct a physical exam cost the patient her life.
Dr. Chase? Hi.
Hi.
Kayla, I'm here for the test. My arm.
Yeah. Okay. It's positive. Talk to Nurse Trevin, get an appointment with Dr. Broston in rheumatology.
I took that medicine you gave me, but my stomach still hurts.
Sheds could be stronger than we thought, or it could be reflux from the prednisone. This is stronger antacid.
Doctor,
Yes?
nothing.
Talk to me. 35-year-old female, vomiting massive amounts of blood. LSD at work, BP 80/20, heart rate 140. Push fluids, 3 liters in the field, and we're bolusing another one right now. It's gotta be a bleeding ulcer, Doc. Coworker says she's been eating ibuprofens like candy.
Thought she had machetes.
In the stomach. There's too much blood, I can't see.
She burst an artery?
No. There. Bubbling, just a bad ulcer. Okay. Cauterizing. Looks good. Bleeding ulcer. We got it. She was fine 2 hours ago.
By fine, you mean she had fountains of blood spurting out of every orifice? Then yeah, I believe you. I'm guessing those are celebratory bells.
Solid BP 70.
Show me the ulcer.
It's brown. I cauterized it.
Sweet back. Show me the whole stock. Stop.
Second ulcer?
Not anymore. They're perforated.
Get it to an OR. Let's go.
She was not fine 2 hours ago. She mentioned stomach pain.
Yeah, so I gave her a stronger...
You didn't do an exam.
She just came in for a follow-up. The results of the pathogen test.
You listen to her stomach. Check her vitals.
Maybe if she'd said something about taking ibuprofen, mentioned the rectal bleeding.
Yeah! Why didn't she go to med school like you did? Diarrhea, blood in the stool. These are routine questions.
Doctors skip all the time. It was a minor mistake. I couldn't have known it was gonna
Mistakes are as serious as the results they cause. This woman could die because you were too lazy to ask once.
Simple question. House constantly challenges his team to commit to the process of critical thinking. First is observation. Collect the facts. That means a complete medical history of the patient, a physical exam, and the relevant blood work and tests to obtain all the clinical and subclinical symptoms. Working on House's team, these early aspects of the process can be taken for granted, as seen in the clip we just watched. Once all that information is obtained, the process of differential diagnosis begins. The team posits multiple theories to explain a patient's symptoms, and one by one, eliminates them based on reason and experience until one theory is agreed upon and can be tested. More often than not, the way it's tested is done in the most expeditious way, by treating the disease they have diagnosed. The following clip demonstrates a typical differential diagnosis by House and his team. Well, perhaps not so typical, since the patient is catatonic and has been confined to a wheelchair for several years.
2002, patient had dry eyes.
Dry eyes plus a grunt. It all makes sense.
Be a neurological issue.
I get hay fever when I put drops in my eyes. I don't go to a neurologist.
Dry eyes could indicate an autonomic dysfunction. Goes on the board.
What about coughing? Or boogers? Should we include boogers?
I'm happy we're doing this. I'd much rather do this than lengthen some guy's tendon. Patient's headaches increased. Doc scanned his head, found a tumor.
You like wasting your time?
I'm learning.
To do what? Reconsider solved cases because you don't want to deal with the real world? Just pushing when there's nothing.
Cameron, you are an excellent doctor. There'll be lots of tearful thank yous from grateful patients.
Yeah, am I such a bitch for wanting that?
Oh, it's not a bad thing, but it's not why I'm here. I took this fellowship to learn from House.
He's teaching you to be a masochist.
Dry eyes goes on the board.
In 8 years, the patient experienced 214 symptoms, many of them repeated.
Any patterns?
Fever plus frequent urination could mean prostatitis.
Or a urinary tract infection.
One count was normal, no infection.
If you add pain into the mix, fever, frequent urination could indicate a kidney problem.
I like it.
No, creatinine and BUN were both normal.
Not the kidney part, the pain part. Abdominal pain plus all that stuff could equal a pancreatic cyst.
Perfect. You managed to pick the one symptom you never had. Abdominal pain.
First symptom on the board, grunt.
grunting isn't pathognomonic for abdominal pain.
No. Traditional diagnostic marker is compression of the diaphragm, vibration of the larynx leading to the audible sound. I have a pain in my abdomen.
Richard's symptoms are culled from 8 years of medical history. They're not patterned. These are random individual events over time.
Illnesses have incubation periods. Do an upper endoscopic ultrasound.
His throat will collapse. Muscle degeneration in his neck won't tolerate the scope. It's an automatic trach.
You're talking about him like he's an invalid.
You are insensitive.
Does he drool? Does he hold his neck straight? Does he choke on his food? His neck's fine. His throat's not going to collapse. Cameron, get consent from the wife.
The show uses episodes to demonstrate the subtleties that exist within the diagnostic process. It is not enough to simply go through the steps. Our doctor's task requires experience, creativity, ingenuity, and perseverance. It is no mistake that creator David Shore used Sherlock Holmes as inspiration for the character of Gregory House. Sherlock epitomizes observation and deductive reasoning. Just as Sherlock often chided his cohort, Dr. Watson, House tasks his team to not just see, but observe. They must be willing to see not just the lab results in front of them, but the patient as a whole. They must consider symptoms that have gone unreported, perhaps because they are subclinical, or they go unreported because of House's favorite maxim, everybody lies, or, in the case of the next clip, because the doctors failed to observe it. As we'll see, House's theory eventually leads his team to kill a very young cancer patient in order to find a critical symptom and save her life. But first, they must practice on a cadaver.
What would you do if you were told you were going to die?
I don't know, I'd be devastated.
You'd cry like a baby. Everybody would. She's not doing anything. She's a rock.
She's brave.
Yeah. Why?
She's gone through more than most people do in a lifetime.
So what? Does that mean she's ready to die? What if her bravery is a symptom? The clot is causing hallucinations and messing with her emotions.
You think her bravery is chemically based?
Tell us where to look for the clot. Where's the fear center?
The amygdala, near the hippocampus. It's a big area and a busy one. You blindly cut in there and you kill it. The only time you're gonna see this clot is at autopsy.
Then let's do that. Thank you for joining me for tonight's dress rehearsal. Playing the part of Andy is Morty Randolph. For his donation to science, we give our thanks. Once Andy is cooled and goes off bypass, we have 60 seconds to get 2 liters of blood out of her body, back into her. Pictures to find the clot in her head. If our star is bumped tomorrow, while my MRI is on, these red lights will go off, which will mean we have no usable test results. No test results, it's goodbye Broadway. You guys will be wearing bad cat suits in Des Moines. Now, neurosurgeons here with a view of the monitors, cardiac surgeon there in case we need to open her up. Anesthesiologists, one by the cardiac bypass machine, one by the cooling apparatus. Girls in the chorus, if you're over 5'10", stick with me. Okay, give me 60 seconds on the clock. Showtime. A 5, 6, 7, 8. Siphon off the blood through the arterial line. Whoosh. Sound of blood draining. More whoosh. And we kill her. Again.
Sorry, my hand's slipped.
How hard can this be?
It's a little busy down here.
Again.
If we didn't have to lavage your gastro...
Again. Again.
We could bolt it to the table.
Gruesome and low tech. Kiss me, I love it. A 5, 6, 7, 8.
Okay, go. Too good.
Body temperature 37 degrees Celsius.
Start the cooling. You, go. She's shivering 200 milligrams of Vicuronium.
24 degrees Celsius.
We have AFib.
What? She's dead. That's the whole idea. Go.
1 liter out. 2 liters.
Okay, put the blood back in. Reperfuse the circuit. Anything, people. Anything at all.
Internal carotid artery and cavernous sinus is fine.
Stabilocochlear nerve intact.
Middle meningeal artery, clear.
5 seconds.
Nothing.
We're over the limit. You gotta start rewarming her or there'll be permanent damage.
Keep looking. There. I didn't see anything.
It was there.
You sure?
4 millimeters lateral to the hippocampus. I saw it.
House, she's out of time. She's gonna be a vegetable.
I saw it.
Perspective is often the key that leads to our final diagnosis. House is known for his shenanigans around the hospital, especially with his best friend Wilson. While some may see this behavior as childish, it is in fact a tool House employs to step back from the case and gain perspective. While he chases chickens or humiliates patients in the clinic, he's allowing his subconscious to go to work and find a solution. Perspective is at the center of this next clip. House and his team are treating a patient with SIPA, congenital insensitivity to pain with anhidrosis, a rare inherited condition in which the patient cannot feel pain, heat, or cold. After many tests, the doctors had arrived at the diagnosis of B12 deficiency to explain her recent delusions and numbness in her limbs. However, when they provided her with treatment, she did not respond. Rather than moving past the diagnosis that clearly made the most sense, House obtained perspective while stealing sandwiches from the refrigerator in the doctor's lounge. Much like Sherlock Holmes observed in the curious case of the dog in the nighttime, the fact that the dog did not bark meant it knew the intruder. House knew a response in the patient was House knew no response in the patient was as important as a response. There must be a reason why his hypothesis did not work. I'll give you a warning, this next clip is not for weak stomachs, so some of you may want to look away. It comes at the end.
You still haven't figured out that I don't need sedation.
So you don't move during the procedure. Is that nitrous? Are you trying to kill her?
I gave her nitrous during the EEG. That's what made this thing rear its ugly.
What thing?
B12 deficiency.
Are you having deja vu? We've had this conversation. She was given B12. She didn't get better.
Because someone else ate it. Get an abdominal MRI.
What? What are you doing? Don't touch me!
See? Here she goes.
Don't touch me!
Paranoid delusion. She's going downhill. Forget the MRI. We didn't know her.
Occupied!
Her hernia can wait.
Help! They're trying to kill me!
Okay, you can either believe that we really are trying to kill her, or you can assume she's suffering from a medical condition. Seeing as this is a hospital and we're all dressed like doctors, and there are easier ways to kill somebody.
Bev, help them.
I need iodine, scalpel numbers 10 and 15, forceps, and a largish salad bowl. Okay, hold her down. Come on, Weenie, she's in a cast. Swallow. 15.
You're not going to anesthetize her?
Relax, it's just a magic trick. She's faking it. We're not falling for it this time.
That retracted.
Forceps.
Lake fishing can be fun. You can bring the generations together. If you don't cook that trout or perch well, you'll be giving room and board to this fella.
By free board, I mean all B12 you could take in.
I could have a taper in me.
Not likely. You'd be in a lot of pain. It's gotta be 25 feet long.
Damn it. World record's over 60.
The third and final essential ingredient in what I consider House's successful formula as a science show is its ability to entertain its audience. First and foremost, House is made for entertainment. Although we aspire to honor the science, we must be realistic in our expectations. Story and character are our #1 priorities, and yes, sometimes good science must take a back seat to creating a gripping story. I like to think of it as the ratio between a pill and the peanut butter you stick it in before giving it to a child or a dog. Yes, there's a lot of peanut butter, but the end result is the pill is swallowed. So what's the peanut butter in an episode of House? First, of course, is a compelling medical case filled with jeopardy, stakes, and surprise reversals. And at the center of that case must be an interesting, relatable, and ideally sympathetic character. One of the many advantages of the medical procedural is we get to have the victim and the predator in the same character. Each war is waged on the battlefield of the person we are trying to save. There have been many episodes where we've risked killing our patient in the pursuit of curing them, something that provides constant tension and drama. We've already seen 2 examples today in the clips All In and Autopsy. Another happy advantage of medical cases is how we're able to relate to the patient. Again, each of us can imagine the fear of losing control of our own bodies. Episodes of House often excel in forcing the viewer to ask themselves the question, what would I do in that situation? Again, something creator David Shore encourages all of the writers to strive toward. Patients are often thrust in the gray areas of life and must make choices that are far from clear. Loved ones are forced to make devastating medical choices, like a husband approving a procedure to save his unborn child knowing it would kill his wife. Or a young girl with a lifelong dream of sailing around the world having to lose that dream and amputate her arm in order to save her life. Part of what makes those gray areas so engrossing is that they are rooted in reality. House strives to ground as much of its drama and its characters in reality so that the audience can relate to the stories and the medicine. We work hard to make our doctors real. They are fallible, with character weaknesses, and their lives as doctors are not without consequences, like divorce, drug addiction, and depression. But what would real life be without a little levity? Among House's many notable character traits is its ability to deliver a clever line. We are extremely lucky to have a very talented cast and extremely witty writers who infuse the heavy drama with a good amount of humor. This last clip, I feel, exemplifies all of the concepts I've discussed up until now. Our team must treat a patient they have no access to because she is stationed in the South Pole. They can only communicate with her remotely through video conference. They not only cannot use their usual tools of diagnosis, but they must talk her, and later her coworker, through the process of diagnosis and treatment. It's a situation that requires observation, perspective, knowledge of medicine's history, and truly creative problem solving. And a little humor.
Bad news is you're 0 for 2 in the kidney department.
Is there good news? You're back at home.
Of course. There's cable.
And freedom to work pant-free.
That is good news.
Wilson found signs of inflammation in your biopsy. That plus the 2 failing kidneys points to autoimmune disease, probably SLE or vasculitis. The treatment for both is prednisone.
Start with 100 milligrams.
Autoimmune is just your latest theory. Like cancer before that and a kidney stone before.
Take the prednisone, you'll get better. That'll be your confirmation.
You practice medicine like it's a fire sale. You've wasted antibiotics, x-rays.
That was not a waste. We ruled out.
We have a crew member here who has asthma. If he has an episode after I've used up the prednisone, he'll die.
There's a good chance he's going to die anyway, since there won't be a doctor there to help him.
Show me proof that it's autoimmune, and then I'll take the prednisone.
We should send her outside.
Right. Just tell her to head north till she runs into a hospital.
Autoimmune diseases are basically inflammation running wild. Extreme cold has been used as treatment, like putting ice on a sprained ankle. She starts to feel better outside. We know it's autoimmune. She'd only need to be outside 5 minutes.
Without her mittens. Mom told me that was a bad idea. Especially that winter, it was 70 below and I had dual kidney failure.
This is a good idea. It's perfect for you. Experimental, risky.
Where are you going? Talk to the people I pay to come up with medical ideas.
There are no ideas. The test for autoimmune is ANA. Unless penguins poop immunoanalyzers.
For ANA testing, people had autoimmune diseases. How did they know?
C3.
Before that?
Ellie Prep, but she doesn't have any controlled pore glass beads.
You don't need them.
When you shake the test tube, the paperclip will damage some of your blood cells. If you have an autoimmune disease, your immune system will gorge itself on the damaged cells. They'll get big and fat so you can see them under a microscope. How you doing?
No change. So, how long should I give the cells to fatten up before I check them?
A couple hours.
Drink her urine.
If it has a strong, concentrated taste, it means the problem's on your kidneys. Watery taste means it's your brain.
And then you can fix it?
Let's say yeah. Milk, lemonade.
She tastes kind of watery.
That's bad news.
Either an increased intracranial pressure or something's wrong with her hypothalamus.
How do you figure out which one it is?
We don't do anything. You're gonna drill a hole in her skull. She regains consciousness, it's increased intracranial pressure.
And if it's the other thing?
She'll die. But it's the hypothalamus, she's dead anyway.
If the problem is the pressure in her brain and I fix it, is she gonna be all better?
Nope, but it'll give us more time to figure out what's wrong.
When people hear I write for House, their eyes widen and they say something like, "Wow, you must be really smart." Or, "Did you study science in university?" The answer to both questions is no. In fact, even though my father was a doctor and my mother a nurse, and I once had designs on going to medical school, writing for this show intimidates the hell out of me. When I started, the learning curve was incredibly steep. It was like learning a new language. I didn't know clinical from subclinical or the difference between acute or chronic renal failure, let alone what a leukocyte was. But this is actually a positive. It's a good thing that people like me are the ones behind writing science shows like House. As I teach myself about a subject, I am creating the lesson plan for the episode. If I can find a way for me to understand it, chances are good that I'm crafting a story the audience will understand too. Combining science with story is an easy way to make science approachable to people who would never consider learning what an autoimmune disease is. Of course, we have an obligation to honor the science as much as possible. And all the writers on our staff do thorough research by reading medical journals, consulting science websites and texts, and speaking with experts like our show's medical consultants, Drs. John Sotos, Harley Leiker, and Lisa Sanders, and experts out in the field, whom we contact through fabulous organizations like the Science and Entertainment Exchange and your own MINTiFF. And, like the doctors we write about, we have a responsibility to continue our science education by reading science magazines, websites, and watching documentaries. Our show regularly brings in experts in varying fields, from emergency pediatric medicine to underrepresented tropical diseases, to broaden and deepen our understanding of medicine. But one word of caution. Writing for American television, we often get caught up in the newest thing. We think the best way to capture an audience's attention is with the most cutting-edge concepts, the most fringe aspects of science. While these can be exciting, I think we must not forget the basics of science. We cannot assume that our audiences are familiar with or remember the fundamentals of scientific disciplines. How are they to appreciate what's new or leading edge if they have no context for it? The good news is that the cornerstones of science remain as exciting and fantastic as when they were first discovered. So that leaves one remaining question. Even if we take the greatest care in crafting our shows about science, does it even matter? Yes! And shame on you for asking. A December 2008 study in the American Journal of Bioethics found that in a survey of 400 medical and nursing students at Johns Hopkins University in Maryland, 76% of doctors in training watch House MD. Now, even if that means they watch so they can say, that's wrong, and that's wrong, and that's wrong, at least we're starting a conversation. Our goal as makers of television should be to incite those kinds of conversations. Better yet, to set off a spark of curiosity in the mind of a child or a teenager or an adult. How wonderful it can be to steer our societies away from a lifestyle of self-interest and toward a lifestyle of interested self. And here's why. A 2010 paper by John H. Falk and Lynn D. Deerking, published in American Scientist, entitled The 95% Solution, describes a very surprising thing. According to their research, even though Americans test poorly in science skills as children, American adults have outperformed their European counterparts, including South Korea, Japan, and, forgive me, Germany, in science literacy for the past 20 years. They attribute this to what they deem free choice learning resources. As I mentioned at the beginning of this lecture, Americans spend only 5% of their life in the classroom. Therefore, the majority of their science knowledge is gained outside of the school through vehicles such as House. We live in an age when we have access to an abundance of knowledge through the internet, museums, science reporting, science personalities, hobbies, and, God forbid, books. Creating even the vaguest interest in a science concept through television can lead a person into an extensive and inspiring journey into new knowledge. And really, there couldn't be a better time to start making people get excited about science. Although some universities are reporting higher enrollments in programs like physics, those programs still fall way below the enrollment of non-science disciplines. And employer demand for people with science, technology, engineering, and math skills continues to outpace supply. Most frightening to me is the increasing trend in my country for science to be politicized. The Republican Party in America repeatedly takes hard stances against concepts like evolution and climate change, often launching witch hunts against scientists without a single factual leg to stand on. To them, science is a political inconvenience, and they are motivated to keep their constituents in a perpetual state of ignorance and contempt for the sake of votes. This behavior has very real and very dire consequences for the future of our planet and our children. Science isn't just about equations and impenetrable concepts. It's about critical thinking. It's about observation of the facts and being able to make decisions that are not based on emotion. This doesn't mean those choices lack passion, but rather they start in the factual world. And as a writer of fiction and someone who regularly consults the Merck Manual of Diagnosis, I can attest that the factual world is far more startling and incredible than any fictional world imagined. TV is a powerful medium. It is pervasive and ever-present. We have a great opportunity to serve our audiences and peers by endeavoring to share what's great about science. You never know what small idea tucked within a scene can lead someone on the path of enlightenment. And who knows, maybe at my next cocktail party, I can ask someone if they've heard about the new breakthrough in malaria research involving targeting an enzyme outside the digestive vacuole, and they won't run away screaming. And at the very worst, we can all have a new favorite dirty word next time we stub our toes, we can yell, "Science!" Thank you for your time and your